Why should the Republican candidate for president, and very possibly the next president of the United States, be concerned even just a little about a former career civil servant? It's unclear why he is.
Come on, even you don't believe that.
That was CNN's Anderson Cooper, aka Vanderbilt, talking about the former second in charge at the FBI, Andy McCabe. This was quite the victimhood interview between these two. I'm going to start by breaking down this statement.
Why should the Republican candidate for president, and very possibly the next president of the United States, be concerned even just a little about a former career civil servant? It's unclear why he is.
The second part of his statement there, claiming that he's unsure why Donald Trump would be concerned with Andy McCabe, is an outright lie, and Anderson Cooper is well aware of why Donald Trump would have Andy McCabe on his radar. As far as the reason why, it's pretty simple. McCabe was an integral part in the entire process that led to the Crossfire Hurricane so-called investigation and many other lies or political investigations that went on at the FBI during his time there. The last time I did a video on the topic of Crossfire Hurricane was when the Durham report came out. That video was taken down by YouTube, and then a strike was applied to this channel claiming that it was providing misinformation. And all that really means is that I was providing information that goes against the government propaganda narrative. Having said that, YouTube, you can go ahead and put another strike on the channel after this video because the facts are the facts and they're not going to change. The story itself is not very complicated. The intelligence community, as they call it, and the FBI used opposition research that came from the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign to launch an investigation into Trump, all the while knowing that the information was not true. When it comes to the motive of the FBI, all you have to do is look at the text messages of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. One text message, Lisa Page says to Strzok, "And maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace," which is followed up 2 days later with, "Trump's not ever going to be president, right? Right?" And then Strzok replied, no, he's not. We'll stop it."
These documents seem to indicate the FBI was actually spying on the Trump campaign before they suggested.
Very, very clearly showed they were spying. They were doing it 17 days, just 17 days into the investigation. They go to brief the Trump campaign, and under the guise that they're talking to them about Russia may target President Trump and then candidate Trump in the campaign, when in fact the FBI was targeting the president himself. It took 13 minutes to give the defensive briefing portion of the briefing, and then they were there another hour and 42 minutes. So it's interesting. You look at page 1 of the document, the names on the list. You got Pienka doing the briefing, or at the actual briefing, and it was approved by Strzok and Kleinsmith. Strzok, of course, who ran the investigation, and Kleinsmith is the guy who now famously lied to the FISA court, changed the document to help get the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page. So, and the other two interesting names on are Crossfire Hurricane, Crossfire Razor. So this is 17 days since the investigation started. They're already Crossfire Razor, already going after Flynn. Crossfire Hurricane, of course, was the investigation that they went after the president's campaign. So I think it's all important. Shows that they were targeting the president right from the get-go. And you got to remember the sequence. Investigation opens on July 31st. August 8th, Peter Strzok does the famous text, "We'll stop him." August 15th, he does the other famous text, "We have the insurance policy." 2 days later, August 17th, this briefing takes place.
There are plenty of other examples as far as meetings with high-level officials at a bunch of different federal agencies, including at the White House. So once the DNC and the FBI collude to create this fake narrative, then the media propaganda machine can take that and run with it.
Russia's assault on our democracy and interference in our elections.
Donald Trump and his campaign concerning Russia.
The FBI used a dossier of allegations of Russian ties to Donald Trump's campaign as part of the justification to get approval to secretly monitor Trump associate Carter Page.
There was a whole vault full of dirt on Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump didn't seem to care much about Russian election meddling, but cared a lot about Russian prostitutes.
And the broader problem of Russia continuing to interfere in our elections.
Key findings in Durham's report were already disclosed thanks to Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act investigations and litigation. So you knew the truth. Durham's report further exposed the truth. What does this say about our federal government?
The most frustrating part is that after 7 years of character assassination and criminality and untold defamation by various news outlets, the net result is no substantive prosecutions. You have to remember that Durham details a meeting in the White House, both in August of 2016 and later in January of 2017, where all the Obama administration principal officials, President Obama, now President Biden, then Vice President, Comey, Brennan, the whole cast of characters sat around knowingly discussing how Hillary Clinton launched this entire charade on July 26, 2016, and deliberately set in motion a criminal campaign to unlawfully affect the outcome of the presidential election. And then they carried that forward as a soft coup against President Trump through his transition and into his presidency. And this was a nonstop, 24/7, wall-to-wall effort to attack the presidency and to attack President Trump personally. And the lives that have been ruined by this, the smear campaigns, the American public is supposed to now swallow this 306-page report and just say, oh, well, too bad.
The former civil servant is Andrew McCabe. Back when Trump was president, McCabe was deputy director of the FBI. He's now a senior law enforcement analyst. Former president amplifying comments that you should be worried. What goes through your mind?
Well, Anderson, part of me is not surprised at all. These are things he's been saying forever. We know that Donald Trump and his friend are, these are people who are obsessed with personal grievance and settling scores. Their entire way of thinking about leading and administering this country is in the context of having been wronged and trying to engender support among their supporters by, throwing this kind of red meat out to people who are who respond to this sort of language. So we shouldn't be surprised by it at all. They're both paranoid old men, one of whom is on his way to jail, and the other one, we'll see, that might happen for him as well. So that part doesn't surprise me. What's really, to me, shocking and disgusting about the rhetoric is what it says about who we are becoming as a nation, and the fact that a person who is, quite possibly the next president of the United States is engaging in this level of absolutely fundamentally anti-democratic rhetoric and behavior and ideation. Everything he says stands in direct contrast to the nation that we think we are, the nation that we have always been. But I think people have got to start asking themselves, is this the direction that we want to go? Is this the country that we're becoming, a place where an incoming president takes the levers of power and uses them for his own gratification to pursue enemies?
For those of you who don't speak government bureaucrat nonsense, what he's actually saying is that they're worried Donald Trump may do to them exactly what they're doing to him now. McCabe then goes on to defend the entire tyrannical system and actually slips up and says the truth about the Mar-a-Lago raid.
I talk to former officials, and everyone is in the same place. Like, we are still committed to this country and seeing this through. We still have faith in the systems that are built to protect the rights of every American. But that's a hard thing to explain to your family when they're thinking, basically they don't want to have to live in this kind of fear and terror for another 4 years. Mar-a-Lago raid, search warrant, not a raid.
To me, just people who have dedicated their lives to public service and civil service, it is the backbone of our democracy. It is essential for the functioning of this country at agencies all over. And it's extraordinary that somebody who would be running for president already saying, like, this guy, we're going to go after this person.
And McCabe, you should be worried. You should be very worried. But also understand this, brother. We have extradition treaties with virtually every country in the world, and you go ahead and run as far as you want. We're going to come and get you.